Who is the Deep? He is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and these two do have a lot in common, mostly about sea life and sex. Kennedy first became famous in his own right as an environmental attorney, and the Deep shares a strong commitment to the environmental causes. The Deep even shares Kennedy's skepticism about vaccines, and in this scene we actually see him getting his information from his real-world counterpart by reading one of Kennedy's anti-vaccination books. Kennedy and the Deep also share a strong commitment to nutrition and children's health, especially reducing sugar consumption. But they both have ugly histories of abusing sea life. Kennedy once chainsawed the head off of a whale he found at the beach and took it home strapped to the roof of his car to study it. Maybe the same way Homelander studied the president's severed head in the comic book, but there's no confirmation on that. We can see this story being referenced in the scene where the Deep tries to stop a speedboat with a whale, which has a rather dismal end result for the whale. And we can see even more cetacean mayhem when the Deep tries to elope with a dolphin, but there's a terrible car accident, which is rapidly followed by a truck accident. There are also some pretty ugly stories about RFK's dietary habits, like when he was accused of eating a dog, which is subtly referenced in this scene.
Hold up. I thought he ate a dog.
He ate out a dog. It's a big difference.
Now, when these allegations dropped, RFK Jr. said he'd never eat a dog, or a human. There's no suggestion that the Deep does either of these things. In fact, in this scene, we see his extreme reluctance to do the latter.
Sex is just a spectrum, right, bro?
However, the Deep does have an unhealthy fascination with aquatic life. This was probably inspired by the time RFK let a Pacific lamprey give him a hickey. Pacific lampreys have pretty frightening-looking mouths, but then again, octopuses have parrot-like beaks, so that doesn't sound like a very good idea either. The Deep's octopus lover Ambrosius is a surrogate for RFK Jr.'s second wife, Mary Kathleen Richardson, who Kennedy had been having an affair with at the time his first wife divorced him for infidelity. Later, Richardson would attempt to divorce Kennedy too, but during the divorce she was found hanging from a rope in her garage. It was ruled as suicide by the local coroner, but there were rumors that RFK actually had something to do with it, and this is why we see the Deep letting Ambrosius suffocate when he breaks her tank.
I can't breathe.
The Deep's attitude towards sea life changes quite a lot during the course of the series. He goes from protecting them to eating them, and by the end he's actually advertising condiments to encourage their consumption. But one thing that doesn't change about the Deep is his intellect. The guy's as sharp as a jellyfish, and this was also inspired by Robert F. Kennedy.
Well, if the drug was $100 and it raised the price to $600, that would be a 600% rise. Well, if it drops from 600 to 100, that's a 600% savings.
The Deep's so stupid that Sage has to lobotomize herself to stand being around him, something we later learn she doesn't need with Black Noir.
We have something special, don't we?
Wait, is she lobotomizing herself to fuck you too?
What do you mean lobotomizing herself?
Bro.
These relationships are also important to the symbolism, as Sister Sage is Steve Bannon, and Steve Bannon had been flirting with both RFK and Ben Carson, trying to get them to run for president. And as for Deep murdering Black Noir, Ben Carson had been expected to be Secretary of Health and Human Services in the second Trump administration. But Trump used that cabinet seat to convince RFK Jr. to endorse him, and Carson ended up in some advisory role with little power or prestige.
You were never my bro.
Well, that covers the Deep, but this is just one of a series of videos I'm doing to describe the political symbolism behind characters in The Boys.